Okay guys, so just going to do a quick update here. This is the 980 display, and yeah, you can see I've got the double digits is because I just don't know what to display below channel 1. Any suggestions for that would be helpful. You see, once we get to channel 1, it displays, well, channel 1. Now A channels, now I could display that like 3A because I got 2 digits, or 7A, but things like 11, I can't display them. So I don't know what to do about that, other than you have to work it out from the frequency display. So yeah, I just don't know what to do with that. Stuff like 19, where you see 27185, 27195, and then 20, and so on and so forth. But going up above, obviously, that's fine till you get to 10 meters, and then you're back to double zeros again. So I don't really know how to display that. You know, do I do bands? You know, what's the deal? And if I'm going to do bands of 40 channels, what button do I steal for the bands? Maybe the 919 button. So do I display bands in here? Yeah, anyway. Or do I just display 1 through 40, 1 through 40, 1 through 40, right on through it? So I don't know. Anyway, guys, suggestions on that would be helpful, because I really don't, that one's sort of stumping me as to how to deal with it. So TX meter works. Receive meter does work too, provided if I've had a signal into it. You know, obviously the indicator, I've already got that done. The SR scale, stuff like that. And started on the menu. So you'd see we got the menu here. So I haven't done any sub menus. So yeah, and on that note, and it changes the channel because it's changing, the encoder's changing position, and I've got to, you know, it's just, you know, I've got to refactor all that a little bit. So it's no big deal, just got to do it. So that's basically it for the functionality as far as what works, what doesn't work. You know, I haven't done the VHF receiver bits yet, and then all that stuff. So once I get the functionality all worked out, that's the menus and the modes and all that wonderful stuff, then I will you know, work out the VHF portion of it, because that's going to be changed. I'm going to change some other functionality in this, like the way the talkback works and the way the mic gain works. The way it's just dumb, the way they did it. But anyway, so that's the display and the absolute huge rat's nest that's coming out of that microcontroller. Because yeah, there is a microcontroller under there somewhere. So anyways, take a look at the board renders, which are over here on this computer. So there's a board. So that's obviously the back of the board with the components. I'm just plugging the camera in because it's complaining about power. I didn't charge it. There we go. Power on the camera. Okay. So that's the component side. The test connector obviously won't stay. So let's see if we can maybe make that a little bit better. Not really. We're looking at a computer screen, so you know, it's as good as it's going to get. So that's the microcontroller. This is my program and debug header, and the rest of those footprints for my connector. And this is that 4-pin connector that's got the power, 8 volts and such, that comes up from the main board. The encoder is over here. On the front side is really just LEDs and buttons. So there's the front side. And for obvious reasons, that can't stay there because it's a through-hole part. It's just a test connector so that I can verify operation before I put the display on, this display glass and all that wonderful stuff on. Because once it's, you know, verified working, then that's going to go away, and that won't be on a production board. This is really more about verifying the size, dimensions of the board. Most of the electrical connections, I've already had some oopses on this. Mostly the ADC channels, because I tied the wrong thing to the ADC reference input, so it's a little of an oopsie. This board render has it rectified already, but the ones that are coming do not. So I just won't have the S meter working on the new board, which is sort of like whatever. I can work that out with bodging. Just cut some tracks and shift some things a little bit. No big deal. So that's basically it. Not much going on here. All the resistors are for the LEDs. Like the LEDs on this thing, there's so many damn LEDs. I mean, you know, there's 4 here, these 4, and then there's the illumination for the buttons, all down along there that go through a light pipe. There. Got 4 on the top that illuminate the display through a light pipe. 2 on each end for the controls, you know, also hit light pipes. So it's really, most of this is about placement of these LEDs. Are these LEDs in the right place? I also have to wait for buttons. I don't have the right buttons. And I still don't have those. So, you know, it could be another week or 2 before I get those buttons. Because the only way I was able to get those buttons is to buy 1,000 of them. So I had to buy 1,000 buttons because no American supplier had these buttons. They're made by a Chinese company and they're a specific size. And I did find the company, and yes, I could obtain them. And I'm talking about they're the same size as the ones that are on the original 980 board, which stand off pretty damn high. But they have a unique requirement that the button, not only does it have to be a certain height, but it also has to be a certain width. The actual button has to be that little small cylindrical shape to fit through the light pipe. So, you know, it's actually a unique button. Nobody makes it except like this one company, and I'm betting that the only reason that they had them is probably for all we know they had them for this project. And because I mentioned when I was looking for the buttons to the company in China that it was for a radio, and I mentioned it was for a radio called the 980 SSB, and they seemed familiar with it, which was sort of like surprising. It's like, how are you familiar with that radio? Probably because they're the manufacturer of the button. So I ordered 1,000 of these buttons from them. And it was the only way I could get them. Because they're like, yeah, we're not going to sell you 100. I can only sell you a minimum quantity of 1,000. It's like, oh my God. So I've got a significant amount of money invested in bloody buttons. So I'm going to get this bag of buttons that's going to show up, or actually I'm sure they'll come on a reel, but yeah, in fact I believe they are on a reel. So I'll get this reel of buttons from China, and yeah, that'll allow me to make a bunch of these boards. Or for anybody who needs replacement buttons, some of them, because yeah, they're unobtainium otherwise. But they're good buttons, so I use almost a very similar button to these, and they are good buttons. So it's just that they're shorter. So anyway, that's basically it, guys. You know, not a whole else going on. I hope to have something tomorrow. So stay tuned, and tomorrow I should have potentially something to show. And maybe people will be pleasantly surprised, and maybe it'll blow up in my face. But either way, I'll have something to show. So cheers, guys. Catch you next time.